Welcome back to Treksphere, and we are continuing to take a look at Round 2's 1/1000 scale Enterprise from Star Trek Discovery. And what you see here is our open and light-rigged saucer section. Now, I mentioned in one of the earlier videos that I was going to be making a few modifications, or at least that I was thinking about it. So I'm going to address those in a few moments. First, let's just talk about the kit. As you see, there's some white paint on the inside. I kind of did that as a bit of an afterthought. With what white paint I had around, you might also be able to tell there's a lot of silver. So to prepare this, I sprayed the inside with flat black. I sprayed over it with silver. And then this happened to be the only white paint I happened to have on hand at the time. And so I decided I was going to just go ahead and put some in there. I didn't need a lot, but I did like it a little bit better than the silver for this application. And so all the clear parts are installed. Used clear part glue on these clear parts all the way around. And then you'll notice the lighting kit. So for the lighting kit, I actually already have a nacelle put together. And with the nacelle, I used super glue, and I really wasn't happy with the super glue. It was just taking a long time to set up. So here I used hot glue, and that set up significantly quicker, and I just felt better about it on the whole. So we've got the lower saucer lights, we have the upper saucer lights. You're going to notice a few things here. Most of the slight alterations I made to this kit I have made on the upper saucer. So the first thing you may notice is in here we have some clear milk jug plastic, if you will. These replace the darkened portions. This is where the four skylights, for lack of a better term, were on the TOS Enterprise. And so I decided to go ahead and include them here. You'll notice a piece of black electrical tape, and what you may notice is this fiber optic that's coming out. I do feel that the strobe light is a nice little feature, and I've never lit a model before. I think I mentioned that in the first video. So I actually just purchased an inexpensive blinking light and enough fiber optic to run an upper and a lower strobe, and I think that'll just finish off the lighting effect. Now the final thing you're going to notice here, you're like, what is that? Now, savvy long-term modelers might recognize it, but at the moment, I'm not sure that everybody would. So let me flip this over. One thing you will notice here in the front window is you can see a wire. So I'm going to hot glue that down and out of place. And then as we come in on it, what you may begin to notice is a bridge module. So I had a leftover 1/537 scale a bridge from the cutaway kit that Round 2 produces. And I thought, this is just screaming for some kind of detail. Now I frosted the other, this has been frosted using some matte coat on the inside. I frosted the lower navigational dome, but this big, massive dome here was just screaming for something. So let me show you, if I can, what it looks like. It's kind of hard in this light. Let me go change the lights. We'll be back in a moment. Here we are with most of the lights off in the room, and you can see, kind of looks like the floor's got a little bit of a glow to it. You see a little bit of blue cast, and that's coming from the little window in there. And if you get at the right angle, you can see that even the astrogator, I drilled that out so it would have some light coming through it. All right, so there's that. All right, so here's the internal lighting. And the lights are a cool white in terms of their color. They do look very blue in the camera. And of course, the cool white does have a bit of a bluish tint, but they are definitely white lights and not blue. You'll notice here, if you look at the upper saucer at that, whatever, it's hard to tell what that area is, but whatever it's intended to be, we went ahead and painted that, and that gives it that frame look. It's not perfect, but I'm okay with it. I think it looks pretty good. And then there are those areas of milk jug. I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup with them, but I'm really happy with that result. You'll also notice over here, the nav light is lit up. I haven't colored them yet, but the nav lights are there. And I am perfectly good with them being solid. I kind of like that. It's more authentic to real life, if you will. And then there's going to be some light leaks because I haven't actually buttoned up the saucer, but there you go. There's the impulse engines. Which look great. When we flip it over, I'm really pleased. I frosted that lower dome there and it looks really good. You can't see everything that's inside. And then looking at the edges, I am just stoked at how nice those edges are lighting up. I can't wait to get this completely buttoned up. Can't really show you the strobe that I put into it at the moment. Obviously you can see here the piece of fiber optic. I used side light fiber optic for that. Can't show you that right now because I don't have the strobe wired up. One last thing I want to try to get you is a look into the bridge if I can. So, I did go for screen accurate, but you can sort of tell in here maybe. There are some screens, view screens that are lit up on the side stations, and for that I actually used micro mask to get a blue tint to those screens, so they look like something just other than big open space. Again, I fogged over, if you will, this front window, just so you don't see. This front window is really hard to get a good bead on. I actually personally feel like it's colored in several different shots from the series. And we're going to fix that. We're going to fix that wire there before we button up. All right, next I want to show you the nacelle. Now I don't have the end cap on for the moment. I want to give you an idea of the nacelle here. Let's turn it off for a second. I'm also going to talk about paint here in a few minutes. So here's the nacelle. Now what you might notice is on the fan blades, I'm trying to get a good focus on it, there are some colors on those fan blades there. So I decided to paint those. So the blades themselves have a little bit of silver here and there. Right at the edge of each blade, there we go, there's a good shot of it. I used a black Pigma micron pen to give some definition to the blade. And then each of the wedges is alternating right now between clear yellow and clear orange paint. So together with the warm white lights that are beneath here, that makes for a really good effect, especially once you connect it with the red in the Bussard collector. But let me turn this back on for a second so you can kind of see it. There we go, up close. That is, I think it's gorgeous. And then for the piece beneath there, where the lights, they cover the lights and kind of split the 4 lights up into 8, I painted that with a bright 24 karat gold, just to be nice and reflective and to kind of keep that metallic look going. Now what you may be able to hear, it is a little bit louder, fully assembled, than it was when we were just running the motors earlier, in an earlier video. Let's go down the length of the nacelle. Now you're going to notice, I'm going to talk about paint in a second, but here we go. There's a little bit of a hot spot I'm noticing. I did a little bit to mitigate that. I actually used some milk jug cut to size and glued in place, and that really did help to even out the hot spots. And they're not quite as bad in person as they look on the video, but they're definitely there. And I don't know, I might have considered using another round of milk jug, like double thick, to work it out a little bit more. One other thing I also did in here, I didn't paint the inside white, but I used some reflective tape inside of here. And I put it on the outer wall of the nacelle. And I was really pleased with what that did. And then finally, I still need to do a little bit of work on the end caps. They're not perfect. There's some areas you can tell I'm gonna have to do some touch-up painting and so forth, but you know, this is, again, I keep going back to this is the first time I've lit a model, and I'm actually pretty pleased with that. All right, so here's a final look at the forward nacelle cap. There it is off. And there it is on. And I don't know about you, but I think that is a spectacular effect right there. All right, so I wanted to give you a look at one of the seams here. This is the seam, obviously, on the nacelle. This is the top of the nacelle. So you can see in here there is a seam line that is noticeable. Not terribly bad. It fits together really well, right? But it's going to need some work. So I'm going to wind up using a non-solvent based putty because I've already painted the part. Again, talk about paint in a moment. I don't want to ruin my paint job, but I'm going to go through, I'm going to do just a very gentle sand. I see an area where I didn't, right in there, where I didn't quite get all the flash from the sprue away. So I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to go back over it, and I think I'm going to wind up using like Liquitex modeling paste, which has it's water-based, so it'll work really easily with a Q-tip, a wet Q-tip. It's a bit flexible. It has marble dust in it. Once it sets up, it sets really good. I recently used it on a larger kit and was pretty happy with the results. So I think it'll work good here. So you're gonna have a seam here and on the bottom of the nacelle, on both nacelles, and on the secondary hull, you're gonna have a similar seam. All right, so let's do one last thing. Let's talk about paint. You can tell I've done some painting here. I also turned off the motor just so that it's a little quieter while I'm talking. So the painting that I've done, let's start with the nacelle because it's got the most intricate paintwork. So I've decided on the overall, I'm going with a more TOS scheme of paint. That's similar to what we saw on the ship, also in the Ephraim and Dot short, as well as the original series, obviously. Once you get the Aztec decals on, I think it's going to enhance this. There are some metallics. The nacelle end cap, for example, is painted in Tamiya like gunmetal. Let's see here, for the inner nacelle, for the grill surround there, that is, if I recall correctly, Tamiya Sasebo Arsenal Gray, IJN Sasebo Arsenal Gray. The overall base coat, though, after priming and everything, this is Rust-Oleum Pewter Gray. And then there are some areas here you'll notice where there's some rib detail there and there, here on the back end, which I've just done those, so they're just drying. I haven't had a chance to get the thinner and wipe them off, but those are acrylics. So everything else on here is enamel at this point. Those are acrylic washes, that is the Tester's acrylic wash, and I'm just going to go back in a little bit and clean that up with a Q-tip that's been dipped in acrylic thinner so that we can get some of that off of there. But it just looks fantastic. Went over this area there, and I'm actually I think I'm gonna go in there when it's truly good and set up and try to dry brush some silver detail into that ribbing. Now there'll be some parts that'll go in here as well onto the nacelle that I'm putting a little bit of copper on. The parts that go up here, as well as the part that goes in there. Again, just, you know, feels like a little bit of a TOS-ish vibe. And then over here on the saucer, I don't know that I'm going to need to do a whole lot. I did paint the bridge module up for what it's worth. But that's really about it that I've done there. Now there will be, instead of sensor bands, there are molded sensor strips, if you will, and I'm going to use that same wash technique, and I'm going to give them a wash with acrylic wash, let that set for a day, and then I'll go back over that and wipe down the excess with acrylic thinner. After I do that, and there are a few other areas I might dirty up a little bit with wash. These details back here on the underside of the saucer section at the impulse deck might get it too. But beyond that, I'm really going to rely on the Aztecs to add further character to this build. And the final thing I want to mention for this video, and it goes back to those Aztec decals. So I mentioned to you that there's some very specific directions. You'll see those right here. Now this is a copy that was included. The instructions that are going to come with the first round of Aztec decals, round 2 has already announced that there's some incorrect numbers on there, and they have already placed on their website a correction guide. So some of the numbers for decals are incorrect. So you'll want to download that correct guide and make sure to decal in accordance with that revised guide. All right, so that wraps up this video of the Enterprise, the light kit, with everything that we've been doing here. Next video, I think I'm going to bring you a little bit more detail on assembling a nacelle, just so you can get a feel for that. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, keep modeling and keep yourself tuned in right here at Treksphere.